We have breaking news now, just now into the NFL Network newsroom. Matt Rhule, the Carolina Panthers head coach, has just been fired. The team parting ways with Matt Rhule after just over 3 seasons, 11-27 record. And want to bring in my colleague Tom Pelissero here to talk about it. Something, Tom, that it feels like has been inevitable really for the last couple weeks. And for the Carolina Panthers and owner David Tepper, you know he wanted to be patient. You know he wanted to make sure that this experiment played out as much as it possibly could, if for no other reason than to show the new head coach that he's patient and willing to give it a shot. But considering results like we saw yesterday on the field against the San Francisco 49ers, another frustrating, brutal loss where the offense looked inept, Baker Mayfield looked really, really rough and was injured, it became inevitable. Earlier this morning, the Carolina Panthers pulling the plug on Matt Rhule, who no doubt will go land one of the coveted college head coaching jobs. Really, Tom, it seems like probably whatever he wants now going into an interesting offseason for Rhule.
Well, Ian, Steve Wilkes now takes over as the interim head coach for the Panthers. My understanding that is part of the motivation to do this now and fire Matt Rhule after just 5 games into his 3rd season. Now David Tepper, the owner, can evaluate Wilkes, who potentially could be a candidate for the full-time head coaching job, as well as the rest of the coaching staff to determine what they have and are there people that they want to keep around going forward. You're right, it has been rough all around, particularly offensively over 3 years. Of course, Matt Rhule's original offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, fired coming out of the bye a year ago. He was supposed to be the offensive guru. They could not score. They bring in Ben McAdoo. They still cannot score. A 1-27 record over parts of 3 seasons for Matt Rhule when the opponent scores at least 17 points. That is going to be the final punctuation on the Matt Rhule era in Carolina. And now there's additional questions as the Panthers move forward here with Steve Wilkes as the interim coach, starting out with Baker Mayfield, the ankle injury, and the fact that to this point he had not played particularly well. Are they now in for a quarterback change? Sam Darnold still recovering from a high ankle sprain. P.J. Walker is the veteran. He would be the logical guy to take over in the short term. They're 1-4. It's early enough in the season. You still have the possibility here, Ian, to turn things around. But, of course, there's a lot that's going to happen. And the first one is now with a defensive side of the ball, new interim head coach. Can the Panthers find a way to get the offense going?
And the defense has really been fine. I mean, if the Carolina and the run game has been fine too. That's another thing is we've been talking, so much about Christian McCaffrey and what's he going to be like and is he going to play? And it seems every week the run game has been fine, the defense has been fine, the pass game has been really, really stagnant. And Baker Mayfield has struggled through another pick 6, and now you mention it, he's got the ankle injury, the foot injury. My understanding is X-rays were negative, but he's going to have an MRI today. If Sam Darnold was healthy, sounds like he probably would have been the starting quarterback already. He's not healthy and probably not healthy this week. So P.J. Walker likely a consideration there. And, so much goes into what the Carolinas are going to do now. The Carolina Panthers are going to do now. There's what happens to Baker Mayfield. That's one. There's what happens to Steve Wilkes. So it sounds like he is going to get really, really serious consideration for the head coaching job. He was a head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, just given 1 season. And Josh Rosen, which we know how that goes, one of the worst, first-round quarterbacks we've seen in some time, really didn't seem like he got a totally fair shake there. Now he'll get one at least the rest of the season in Carolina. Then we get to the trade deadline. Do they start trading guys? I know teams are going to be interested. I know teams are going to be calling. Many, many unanswered questions, but we know they answered a big one today by firing Matt Rhule.
And this certainly, Ian, has to be a major disappointment for David Tepper, who committed to Matt Rhule on a 7-year contract to lure him away from Baylor. This was the idea. Give him a long contract, give him a long runway to turn things around culturally. That's what he was supposed to be building in Carolina. It just hasn't translated into wins over the parts of 3 seasons before Matt Rhule was let go. So what do the Panthers do with their next head coaching hire? Usually we see people go the opposite direction, or at least a different type of a coach. I would certainly think somebody who is going to be an expert in offense to try to score points and make the Panthers an exciting team to watch again is going to be one of the many considerations for Tepper as he looks to hire that new head coach. Of course, there's also going to be questions here about the general manager, Scott Fitterer, who was picked to join Matt Rhule after Rhule had already been hired. Does not sound at this point like there are changes afoot on the front office side, but anytime that you fire the head coach, it raises those natural questions. So a lot for the Panthers to figure out. And oh, by the way, big picture at quarterback, Baker Mayfield is in a contract year. Sam Darnold is in a contract year. Do they have the assets? What are they going to be able to get in terms of the quarterback position? These are all the moving parts. It really is starting over from square one in a lot of different ways for Tepper at a time that in year 3, this was where Matt Rhule was really supposed to start the turnaround.
Yeah, and everyone kept waiting for his program to work. And, you know, in the college game for Matt Rhule, this is always what it's been. You get to year 3, everything gets kick-started, and you say, all right, well, finally you're making the improvements that they just never happen. And, you know, Matt Rhule now heads back to likely college football. And of course, Tom, can't go through this segment without talking about Sean Payton, really the elephant in the room there, you know, for the Carolina Panthers. We are running out of time here. We're going to have so much more to talk about on NFL Now at 1 p.m. Eastern, including, is Sean Payton possibly in the crosshairs of the Carolina Panthers? Is that even possible? Who's the newest head coach? A lot more to get to later today on NFL Network.